Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one's going to be for Season 1 episode, I'm going to call it 4, but I suppose it's technically episode 3. I suppose I called Spark of Rebellion 1, so this is technically the 4th, Rebels thing I've seen, even though I think Rebels is just considered like a starting movie, and it's not considered part of Season 1 like the Clone Wars movie from the Clone Wars series. Yeah. This episode is episode 4, Rise of the Old Masters. Yeah, this was a really good episode. I thought it was way better than the previous 2 episodes, which were obviously the first of the kind of just 22-minute episodes. Not that the other 2 were bad, it was just that there was definitely a sense of like, okay, these are just character introduction episodes, there's nothing massively serious going on, apart from like a little bit of a kind of hint at something going into the future in Droids in Distress. But they were still fun, while this one was kind of like, it was fun, there was action, there was drama, there was setup for things to come, character development, there was a lot of stuff happening in this episode, which I really appreciated, and definitely made me feel a lot more confident for the rest of the season. Just, if they have a couple more episodes like this over the rest of the season, I'm going to be very happy with this show. But yeah, just mention, I did get the Spark of Rebellion DVD, and I suppose this is what confirms that it's a movie as opposed to like part of season 1. It's pretty cool. It's just the Spark of Rebellion. It's got the four shorts: the Machine, the Ghost, Art Attack, Entanglement, and Property of Ezra Bridger. And it's just got like a feature where Dave Filoni introduces a trailer for season 1, which is a pretty nice trailer. Some few scenes we haven't seen before, but overall just pretty cool. Got it on DVD. It's pretty nice. But yeah, this episode. First thing I want to talk about is I suppose the plot of the episode was that at the start it's just focusing on Kanan training Ezra for more or less one of the first times, and how it's not going very well. Kanan's very much using the stuff that he knows from his own training. The handstand training, talking about focusing, quoting Yoda. Do or do not, there is no try. And then there is that funny line where he just says, like, what does that mean? Ezra just calls it out, and he's just like, how can I do something if I don't try it? And he's just like, I didn't get that myself. But then it kind of takes a little bit of a journey over the whole episode where Kanan thinks himself a kind of bad master, and then the conclusion he comes to is that, I can't teach you while I'm just trying to be your master. So what I'm going to do is I am going to teach you. I will teach you. I won't try to teach you. And it was, in ways, it was kind of like Kanan couldn't teach Ezra because Kanan wasn't kind of taking his own advice in a way. So that was pretty nice. And definitely over the course of this episode, that's one of the kind of character kind of themes that's explored, in that Kanan doesn't think himself good enough to be Ezra's master. And that the second they hear about Luminara being alive, he wants to rescue her and her to train him because she's better. Now, I thought the whole episode they were going to lead towards a kind of a scene where, warning, like spoilers for the A New Dawn book, which is the prequel novel for Star Wars Rebels. I was kind of expecting what they were going to lead to at the end of the episode was, yes, they have that emotional scene that's in the episode, but also Kanan reveals to Ezra that he never finished his training, that Order 66 happened before he basically became a master, and that technically, he wouldn't be considered a Jedi Master, obviously, but almost to the point where like he maybe wouldn't even be considered a Jedi Knight. He'd just be kind of like considered a Jedi kind of still in training. But throughout the episode we see that he is actually quite skilled, so we don't have the full extent of that backstory that A New Dawn presents, but we do get the Inquisitor who basically reveals that he's looked up the whole Jedi archives and stuff like that, and then he knows that Depa Billaba is Kanan's master, and he just kind of calls out Kanan, and in that fight that's what shows that Kanan isn't a Jedi Master. He's not fully trained himself, though he is actually quite capable. So that's going to be something that is interesting and develops over time. Now, he didn't actually say that in this episode, that he wasn't fully trained himself. So there's definitely still something to come with that, and some more reveals to come from that. But I was just very happy with that. And that was just an interesting kind of a character thing to have throughout the episode, and that you had Kanan trying to teach, and Ezra wasn't quite getting it, and he thought that Kanan was just trying to get rid of him because he didn't want to teach him, while Ezra has kind of developed sort of an attachment, a connection with Kanan, in that he wants Kanan to train him because, as he says towards the end of the fight with the Inquisitor, like, you're what is the line that he says? Like something like, "We're perfect for each other." Then, in that, you're unfocused. That's what the Inquisitor says, which is exactly what Kanan calls Ezra out for. And then Ezra says, that then we're perfect for each other. And so that was pretty nice, and that they are both kind of unconventional in that Kanan, I suppose, has probably more experience just with the whole rebel thing than actually being a Jedi. So he probably has a pretty unique fighting style here. And speaking of fighting styles, like, obviously this is the real first time we've had a full-on lightsaber fight, lightsaber on lightsaber fight. And just let me tell you something. If I was to say, like, one of my favorite things about the Star Wars universe is it's lightsabers, lightsaber fighting and stuff like that. It's kind of my thing. Like in Avatar, like what the main thing that I really like is probably like lore, spirit stuff, the kind of real deep backstory of that universe. With this, it's kind of lightsaber fighting. So when the Inquisitor mentions that Kanan practices Form 3 lightsaber combat, I was just like, yes, they're referencing forms of lightsaber combat in the show. I kind of expected that the Clone Wars would have done that, in that it is kind of established that this is a full-on thing, but it never did. So for this, so early in this season, to actually do that was pretty cool. Now, for anyone who's unaware, Form 3 lightsaber combat is one of 7 lightsaber forms that there are, and it's called Surizu. And the main gist of it, in terms of your description, is that it's a form basically completely focused on defense, and primarily focused on blaster deflection. This is the form that Obi-Wan Kenobi is a master of, because he's very defensive and stuff like that. And if you watch the Revenge of the Sith fight with that in mind, it's basically a battle between Form 3 and 5, which is Obi-Wan using Surizu, and then which is completely defensive, and Anakin using kind of Xian/Gem So, which is the name of Form 5, and he's very offensive in that fight. And you eventually see that the fight just goes on forever because Obi-Wan has great stamina, doesn't waste his energy, and eventually Anakin gets overly aggressive, and that's how the fight actually ends. And that's an interesting kind of point, in that because of that, Kanan was realistically never going to win that fight because he was using such a defensive fighting style. But still interesting nonetheless. Just in case you're wondering, Form 1 is called Shi Cho. And I think Kit Fisto is probably the best idea of a master of that. Form 2 is Makashi, which is Count Dooku's fighting style. It's very kind of fencing based, the one-handed stuff, not very powerful. Shi Cho, if I was to describe what that's like, it's just kind of basic kind of stuff. I think it focuses on like body positions, like strike to the arm, strike to the side and stuff like that. Very kind of basic to the point. Form 3, as I said, is Surizu, defensive. Form 4 is called Ataru, and this is the form of combat that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan use in The Phantom Menace, with all the flipping. It's also the form that Yoda uses to do all the spinning around. And that's kind of explains why Qui-Gon didn't do so well against Darth Maul when they got to the end of the fight, when they were kind of confined because he couldn't flip around as much. And it's quite aggressive. And there's actually a kind of, I think it's one of the books explains that the reason Obi-Wan switched from Ataru to Surizu is because he kind of realized that the reason Qui-Gon was killed by Darth Maul was because Ataru's so energy sapping, so that's pretty cool. Form 5 is Xian/Gem So. Xian is kind of a more, I think it's based on Surizu, but it's it includes more offensive styles of fighting, but it still has good defense. It's kind of a very balanced style, just a bit more complex than Shi Cho. Gem So is what Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker uses, and it's basically Xian, just a lot more aggressive, very focused on just sheer physicality and attacks. Which the best use of the best description of these two styles is Count Dooku versus Anakin at the start of Revenge of the Sith, in that Makashi is perfect for one-on-one combat, but it's not a very powerful style since it's very much focused on one hand, and just the sheer power of Anakin overpowered Dooku there. Form 6 is Nimian or Naiman, and yeah, this is just a kind of like jack of all trades kind of style. Sometimes it focuses on using two lightsabers, I think. That's pretty cool. Not really. I suppose Ahsoka kind of uses that just with the two lightsabers. But there's not a great description of that really that around the place that much. And Form 7 is a mix between Juyo, which Darth Maul uses, which is very just offensive, aggressive, and Vapad or Vapad, which is what Mace Windu uses. And it's just you basically harness a little bit of the dark side to kind of fuel your fighting without actually kind of falling to the dark side, and it's just a special power. But enough about that. I basically made this the lightsaber videos. Please stop me. I will say that we got a little more focus on Kanan's actual lightsaber design, and it's really cool. I do really like the fact that it is in two pieces, and that like the main hilt is on the back, and then he's just got the kind of emitter on the side, and he just kind of puts it together. That was pretty cool. And then the actual fighting in the episode itself, it's definitely that Clone Wars style of fighting, but it is really good. And the fight did a good job at showing that the Inquisitor has done his research on basically all of the Jedi. He knows who Kanan is and knew how to combat him. And the Inquisitor's lightsaber is very interesting in that it's double-bladed, but also the best way to describe it is it's got that kind of weird handle. It's it can either be used as one single-bladed or double-bladed. And then you can also activate this feature where you can complete the ring in the middle, and it just starts spinning around. So it's this really cool mix between General Grievous and Darth Maul. And coming back to the lightsaber combat, Form 3 actually would be perfect for defending against that, which I suppose is why, even though Kanan is dominated in the fight, he doesn't actually get hurt or injured in the fight, in that he was just so defensive he actually couldn't hit him still, so that's pretty cool. And then also throughout the episode we got Kanan teaching Ezra some lightsaber combat, and this kind of led to some pretty cool moments for Kanan at the start of the episode, like using the Force to hold Ezra up when he fell through the air, and stuff like that. It was really cool. Then as far as like the actual plot of the episode goes, the plan to save Luminara, that was interesting in that they kind of gave sort of a backstory, and that like there's rumors that she survived, but I was unsure. And then later on you find out that Luminara's been long dead, but that they're using her as kind of a lure to capture other Jedi that are still out there. And I thought this was a really clever idea to use the continuity that the Inquisitor was told about Kanan at the end of Spark of Rebellion. And that clearly he's formed this plan to kind of lure Kanan out, instead of just, we found out they're here and he runs off to get them. Now he plans it out and knows what to do. So very kind of cool, like first like full on appearance of the Inquisitor. That was really good. Yeah, just the way Kanan is presented as like being amazing the first part of the episode. Saves Ezra. When they execute the plan, he jumps down, he's taking out stormtroopers left, right and centre using the Force very cleverly. And then you think the fight's going to happen, this is going to be awesome, super equal fight, and then he just gets dominated, and it really just shows that a really cool power level, I suppose, for the Jedi, in that like if Kanan was a full-on master, how well would he have done against the Inquisitor? Would he have beat him and stuff like that? So pretty cool stuff there. And then even Ezra involved in the fight was cool. He was trying to use his energy slingshot, and it just wasn't doing any damage. And then the only reason they got away was because Kanan used the Force and kind of like smashed the Inquisitor up against the ceiling as they got away. So and then we did have the kind of moment where they worked together. That was also a very nice moment where they both used the Force. They both focused and opened the door as kind of to get into the ship with Hera. Which was, speaking of which, that was a kind of odd side plot of the episode. I don't think they didn't actually say what the species of animal was called. I don't know if we've actually seen it before, I'd actually have to look that up and see does anyone know what that is. In the comments, definitely let me know what the name of that species of animal was. But anyway, I thought I think they called it the main ship is a Ghost, and then the Phantom is the kind of small ship that kind of comes off from it. So they thought the Phantom was something else, and then the what is it? The scanning frequency that Sabine used was the same as their mating call or something like that. And then eventually, they come in, save the day. Pretty cool. Kind of set piece to end the episode. And kind of already had that kind of feel of a kind of like mid-season finale, just because it was so epic and stuff like that. It was a big escape from the villains. It was just a very, very clever plan from the Inquisitor, and then even the actual plan to enter kind of showed kind of Sabine's role in the group, which I really liked, in that she got out the schematics and was basically giving the lay of the land to everyone, and people were coming up with suggestions, and she was like, no, we can't do that. And then eventually Kanan was the one to come up with the plan. But I like that kind of Sabine is given this kind of job as, she's the one who kind of can see stuff. When she sees the plan, she knows kind of what's good, what's bad. And then Kanan is still the leader, but she kind of understands her advice in that sort of sense. So that was pretty cool. Not much on Zeb in this episode, which I kind of appreciated, in that he was kind of the main character of the last two episodes. I hope we get a more Hera and Sabine focused episode at some point. In that, as I said, I really want to know what their backstories are, as well as all the other characters as well, but them especially. What else is there to mention? You had Chopper again messing around. He's just constantly trying to get these characters killed. Like, there's going to be one point where he does something like utterly crazy and something happens. But pretty interesting droid character. Pretty cool. What else? Was there actually anything else of note in the episode? I suppose it's just kind of this big moment where finally the two of them kind of, more than just this random plan to train each other, they're now kind of fully set on, like, I realise that I'm not the best master, I realise I'm not the best pupil, but we seem to work together reasonably well, so let's kind of start anew from here and it'll be good. So I'm very eager to see where this goes. I don't know if we know for sure if Ezra's getting a lightsaber of his own in the series or something like that. I think people have said the Lego sets kind of spoil that he does get his own lightsaber, but I'm not really sure. But if there is an episode down the line where he actually makes his own lightsaber, that's going to be so cool, because I loved the while that Younglings arc in the Clone Wars, like, I think it didn't need that many episodes. I did appreciate the episode where they did focus on building the lightsabers. That was quite cool, and especially like in that I would assume. I think it's been established previously in canon that the Empire has kind of taken over the planets where you find lightsaber crystals. So where does Ezra get a new lightsaber crystal to make a lightsaber from? But who knows where that'll go from here. Either way, this was a really good episode. I really liked it. It's a big kind of step up in terms of drama, action, characterization from the last two episodes. And as I said before, this show only needs a couple more episodes like this in each season, and it's going to be very good. That's the review. Very good episode. I will be mentioning whenever the ABC airing of Spark of Rebellion airs and we get that Darth Vader scene that we know is coming, I will mention that in whatever my episode review is. After that airs, I'll just briefly mention that at the start. So don't worry, I won't miss out on that. That's been the video review. Thanks for watching, and bye.